Hi everybody, just a quick note. If you're a listener to the Nerds Domain podcast, you'll need to go back into iTunes or your other podcatching device and resubscribe after May 8th. We'll be switching podcasting hosts, and our new host will require us to resubmit our RSS feed, which messes up some things in iTunes. We'll still be putting out podcasts, everything's still going great, but I just want to make sure that all of our listeners are getting our new content from our new RSS feed. Thank you very much. You'll hear us real soon.
You better button your brain, you're in the Nerds Domain. Come on in, it's about to begin.
Hi, everybody, and welcome back to the Nerds Domain podcast. This week, I'm here with Professor Elemental.
Hello.
Say hello, Professor. So, Professor, you are a world-renowned chap hop artist. Is that correct?
I like that. World-renowned. Yes, I am. Just that, absolutely.
So, tell us a little bit about how that got started. Where did that come from? How did you land in this crazy world of music?
It's very peculiar, actually. So, yes, I first started out as a more of mainstream, not mainstream, but a regular rapper, and no one was really paying any attention to another white, middle-class, nearly middle-aged rapper. And I just did The Professor as a sort of one-off, just as a little one-off joke, and it all suddenly came to life. Everything fell into place. It's like, you know, when you sort of find your voice and then you end up finding your vocation. It was absolutely perfect. And it also allowed me to connect the worlds of hip-hop and nerdy geekiness back together again, because I'd always really been at odds with the fact that I love hip-hop, but I didn't necessarily find my kind of people in that world. And I loved all the nerdy stuff, but I didn't really find my kind of music in that world. So bridging the gap between the two was lovely.
Excellent. So how long have you been doing this?
About 12 years I've been probably emceeing sort of properly, but The Professor has been around more maybe 8 or 9 years. I've got to double check that actually. It's hard to remember, to be honest. I feel like with each year that passes, it feels like he's always been here. He'll always be here.
Right. So you've got several albums out. 4 or 5?
Yeah, I think maybe even 7 or 8. I can't remember. I've stuck them all on the website just to be on the safe side.
Excellent. And so you, your raps are generally about just whatever fantastic adventures the Professor is going on, or putting on trousers to put down another rapper, or tea. Lots of tea.
Yeah.
There's a good balance of tea there. Where do you draw your inspiration? Is this just you get deep into the character and enjoy yourself, or is there a secret to it?
Well, a lot of it comes from Tom Caruana, who is the chap who makes all the music for The Professor. It's a lovely partnership that we've had for years and years of making music together, and he'll often send me a beat and for example, the This Is My Horse song, it could only be about me having a lovely horse. Once he sent me that music, there was nothing else that it could possibly be about. But it works both ways. Increasingly now that I'm doing more involved in sort of conceptual albums and things, I'll say to him, look, I need a song that sounds like me flying on a pterodactyl over some mountains near a volcano. And he'll be like, no worries. And he'll send me 3 beats that afternoon that fit the bill perfectly.
Right on.
But it's nice with The Professor because it allows me to kind of explore the kind of world that he's in, but also use him as a bit of a platform to talk about other things. And particularly the last album I did, The Giddy Limit, that was more of an EP. I didn't abandon the Victorian side completely, but it allowed me to do a couple of songs about not feeding internet trolls and going to conventions and the things that I feel passionate about as well, while still using The Professor as my guide. It's quite handy.
Excellent. And you did an Indiegogo, it's been a few months ago, hasn't it?
I know. Everyone's like, where's the video? You sure we gave you money in good faith for this music video? Yeah, that worked really well. It was lovely. And we raised a ton of money for charity as well, which was super.
Excellent. So you've got a couple, or you've got several albums out. You do some touring. generally, much to my disappointment, in the UK. Do you make it over to the States very often?
Oh yeah, I do. Well, not at the moment because the buggers won't let me back in. I'm waiting for my work visa now. After the last time I tried to get over to the States, the chap took one look at me. I was like, no, back you go. I was so disappointed. I was on my way to Detroit and I got as far as Canada, and they said, no, you're not coming in. And
wow.
And as I came out, there was a beautiful moment where there was a sort of Canadian border guard, and in typical Canadian style, I was really dejected. I said, I don't know what to do. I've been, they won't let me into America. And he said, oh man, typical Americans. What, do you know anybody in Canada? Would you like to stay here? Can I get you a coffee? I'm like, oh, thank you, Canada. I felt like hugging him. It was lovely. But yeah, I'm on a tour that never, ever, 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 ever ends. I'm doing gigs from now till forever, so I'm kind of on a perpetual tour, and increasingly a bit more in Europe, but hopefully I'll be getting to the States a few times this year for a couple of conventions, because there's nothing like an American convention. They are the absolute bee's knees.
I don't know. I keep hearing about all the UK conventions with castles that you actually play in and that kind of stuff. So I think you guys have a decent option over there.
Yeah, well, it's nice that, as you'd imagine, each convention kind of represents a lot of the cultural aspects and even the cliches of a particular country, like the American ones. Not always, but a lot of them are quite big and flashy and excitable, and some of the British ones are quite heavy on the admin and a little bit more smaller scale and with a lot more drinking involved. And so the ones in Europe tend to be really like super cool. Everyone's standing around smoking cigarettes, looking impossibly cool in like homemade wings. It's beautiful. So yeah, it's a nice way to see the world. I will say that.
Excellent. So let's talk about a couple of your adventures. What is the Golden Frog, and why was it so important for you to grab it?
I forgot about that. That is actually, I got the idea off an old Black Panther comic. Like Jack Kirby for a while wrote and drew the Black Panther. And the stories were mental, like absolutely, even by Jack Kirby standards, they were bonkers. There's like a living fetus that used to battle him, and there's one comic, you can find it somewhere, and it just says, who is it? What is it? The Golden Frog, and it's got this kind of Kirby crackled dot covered golden frog on the front. I was like, right, I'm having that. Thanks, Kirby. So that's where that came from. That's why I needed it.
Excellent. So you generally rap about time travel as well. What kind of time periods have you been to?
Well, that's a good question actually, because I've just finished recording an album called Ape Quest, which is going to be, it's kind of my biggest thing yet, in that I've incorporated all the people that I do the comic strip with, and Luke who does the videos. So we can do this great big concept, and I'm going to travel. It's going to be an album where I travel through time looking for Jeffrey, my ape butler, who has gone missing. So I'll be hitting the Wild West with Steam-Powered Giraffe, the Time of the Dinosaurs with a singer called Sadie Gemmett, all over the place. And a brilliant like medieval battle is going to take place, a kind of Game of Thrones style adventure with a rapper called Teeb. So it's a nice way to collaborate with as many people as possible and hopefully make something silly as well.
Excellent. So you mentioned your comic strips. Tell us a little bit about those and where we can find those.
Oh yeah, they like all of my other tat is found at professorelemental.com, and I just got really, really lucky. I feel very blessed to work with the kind of people I do, because a chap called Chris Mole, who is a comics writer, got in touch a couple of years ago now and said he'd like to write a comic, sent me a few scripts, and I loved them. And it opened up this whole world of independent, small press, underground comics I didn't really even know existed, even as a comics nerd. And in the UK, it's a really vibrant scene. The same in Ireland. There's this amazing scene of really talented people. And so we've been able to kind of amass this great pile of Professor stories. We're even getting to expand it into some other areas now as well, which is really nice. And we've had some celebrity kind of covers as well, which has been super. We've had Charlie Adlard from Walking Dead did the last cover for us, and Brian Kessinger, I did a swap with him, so he did one with Otto and Victoria. It's all very nice. So yeah, it's a treat, man. It's been going really, really well.
Excellent. So I guess that's a nice little segue. You are a big fan of comic books as well. And it sounds like you already draw some of your inspiration from some of that, but anything specific that you really love and you come back to time and again?
tends to be a combination of kind of the dark stuff and the silly stuff. Image Comics at the moment, they're just killing it all the time. The amount of, I can't possibly keep up with the amount of brilliant things that are going out all the time. Things like Nameless I'm enjoying, and what's that Ed Brubaker one about the spy? Velvet, that's super cool as well. There was a Jason Aaron brilliant thing recently. I can't remember what it was called. Oh, it's on the tip of my tongue. But a really cool little mini-series that was just dark and filthy about loads of people killing each other. It was great. And then Rocket Raccoon. I like to balance up a lot of death and zombies and darkness with the occasional talking raccoon with a gun.
Well, hey, you can't go wrong with Rocket Raccoon.
You can't, can you? You can't. Honestly, I never dreamed that I'd live in an age where I could see Rocket Raccoon on a film. Like, I've always had such a soft spot for the weird and the silly kind of characters, and the idea that that some of those should start making it into movies is delightful, man. It's lovely.
Several years ago, Marvel and Disney put out a comic or a cartoon called Earth's Mightiest Heroes, or Avengers: Earth's Mightiest Heroes, and there was a Guardians of the Galaxy episode, and Rocket Raccoon in that was phenomenal.
Really? I might check that out.
And like the whole Guardians was great, and it's a different lineup than in the movie. And when they announced the movie, I said to my wife Shirley, if they can capture this, whatever it was here in this cartoon, and put it onto the screen, they'll do great. And then they took that and kind of ramped up the ridiculousness and made it even better. And I was very, very excited about that. I still am. I love that movie.
I know. It made a lot of people very happy, that did. And it just makes me sad that DC have forgotten that comics are indeed any fun at all. I had a brilliant interview with Grant Morrison the other day, and he was talking about how people wonder how, for example, Batman can also be Bruce Wayne and could get all this stuff done and could keep it all a secret. And he said, in his typical Grant Morrison way, he said, kids get it, man. Kids get it. Batman can do all that stuff because it's in a comic book. It's not real life. Yeah. That's the point of it. And I think DC have forgot that. They're trying to sort of shoehorn in the realistic aspect wherever possible. And that's the last thing I want. I can go and get realistic from anywhere. I want crazy fantasy. That's why I'm really digging Multiversity. That's the first thing DC have done that's even vaguely interested me in such a long while. I was like, oh, there we go. That's the crazy DC universe I used to know and love.
Yeah, they have gone rather serious.
They've gone way too serious. I know it's almost a cliche to talk about it, but all the stuff in the New 52 with like all of Batman's villains basically turning into paedophile rapists. I was like, I kind of miss the Mad Hatter as he used to be.
Have you read any? Do you enjoy horror comics as well? So like Lock and Key, have you read that?
No, but I'm totally going to, because I just read Nosferatu by Joe Hill. And it was such a good book. It was like the end of a Stephen King book, but with a great ending and that exciting all the way through. It was one of the best books I've read for a long while. So I tend to read more horror novels. I'm reading one at the moment called Bird Box that is absolutely phenomenal. Really good horror book. I'm reading Alan Moore's Crossed. I'm quite enjoying as well. All of his peculiar language and Alan Mooreisms, but I am totally enjoying it. Do you know any other good horror comics? I think it's quite hard to find good horror in comic book form.
Honestly, Lock and Key is my go-to for that. I haven't finished it because I don't want to not have any more to read.
I know that feeling. Comic nerds know that feeling so well. It's like, I can't let this end.
Yeah, I picked up, we have a service called Scribed in that you can get on your tablet or whatever, and it gives you access to a bunch of books, but it also gives you access to all these comics now, and all of Lock and Key is available there. So I've kind of been reading through that there, and then I kind of stopped so that I didn't run out of stuff to read. I went through the first 4 or 5 collections in like 3 days, so that was a little bit much.
That's a high recommendation, actually. It's always a good sign when you go tearing through something really quickly.
Yeah,
I did the same. Everyone was banging on about Saga, so I thought I'd better finally read Saga. And as you'd expect with his amazing writing and the lovely art, I read that in no time at all. I was like, oh god, I didn't even realise I'd read it. It was so good. I talked through it so quickly. It's great.
Yeah. I Lock and Key, and it's not just the writing. The artist is phenomenal. I can't think of his name off the top of my head, but he's just amazing. with everything he's doing, and it really tells the story all by itself. Like, definitely the writing's fantastic, but the art is phenomenal.
Oh, lovely. A perfect marriage. That sounds great.
Yeah.
Oh, I do. It's not strictly a horror comic, but I highly recommend. I think it's called Rover Red Charlie. It's Garth Ennis comics about some dogs at the end of the apocalypse. And it is the best thing I think he might have ever written. I'm amazed it hasn't had accolades left, right, and centre. It's absolutely brilliant. Just a 6-part miniseries, not strictly horror, more a really touching story. But it's the very best kind of Garth Ennis' absolute best. Brilliant.
Right on. Yeah. Well, and if I have the chance to talk about comics, I always talk about Atomic Robo. Have you read any Atomic Robo?
I've never even heard of it, sir.
So back in the early 1900s, Tesla and Edison were in their battle, and Tesla built an atomic robot, an atomic robot named Atomic Robo, and he goes on adventures. But because of the way the book's written, it's not like, well, he started in 1920 and we're going to go through the stories. They go, okay, here is a collection of 4 or 6 issues of a story we want to tell. This one's set in the 40s. This next one's set in the 70s. Yeah. The next one's set back in the 20s. And so you see the development of the character out of linear order, but they're all collected.
That's the sort of stuff that works. That's when comics come into their own, isn't it? There are certain things that work better in comics than in the other media. It's one of those things Alan Moore's always banging on about, is that the reason he doesn't want his comics made into films is because they're comics and they work best as comics. Yeah. As Watchmen is testament to. So, that sounds great. I'll definitely check that out.
Yeah, if you enjoy Rocket Raccoon, there's the ridiculousness is definitely there. Atomic Robo runs a company called Tesladyne, and it's a scientific company, and they only hire action scientists. That's it. You have to be an action scientist. So yeah, that's the kind of thing I really enjoy, and the guy that writes it is phenomenal. The art is great. And now I think they're on Patreon, and all their new stuff is going up on their website, so you might be able to catch it there as well.
Well, that sounds fabulous. Yeah, thanks for the recommendation. I'll definitely give that.
Absolutely.
And it sounds a little bit steampunk as well, by the sounds of things. You can't go wrong with it.
You know what? It's a little bit of everything. Their first collection is all World War II stories, and it's very heavy war. And then there's a whole series about Cthulhu, and Robo gets stuck outside of time and space because he gets attacked by this Cthulhuoid monster, and there's different each trade has its own theme and feel to it. So there's a little bit of everything, and I really, really like that.
That's the kind of magic. That's the magic combination, isn't it? Where you find a character that you can transpose into a variety of different situations. It keeps things fresh. Which hopefully I've been lucky enough to have with the Professor as well, because of the time travel aspect. It allows me to kind of bounce around a little bit and sometimes be more myself, and sometimes be more into character. But it's nice. It's nice when you find that combination, find characters like that. It's lovely.
Oh yeah. So you mentioned also before we started recording, you're into horror movies. Have you seen anything lately that you really enjoy?
Babadook was inevitably the last proper good one I saw. I thought that was pretty decent. No, that's the joy and the pain of horror films, is that you watch so many and they're all shit. But it doesn't stop me finding the next one and finding the next one.
No.
Probably, we've got a regular thing, so nearly every Wednesday I have 2 friends who come round, and occasionally more, to watch horror film, and I normally choose them. And normally the night ends with them pelting me with whatever is to hand, going, "Paul, that was another crappy film. I can't believe we do this every week. I'm sorry. Maniac, that was good. That was one of the last good ones I saw. I thought that was a very decent film, a nice nod to the kind of the 80s slasher stuff. But I'm not a horror snob. I like really classy, sort of well done, esoteric ghost stories and proper dirty, nasty horror films with endless killing and the rest of it. I think there's space for both. But it's weird that something so popular as horror, it's a very popular genre, makes lots of money. Why isn't anyone making any good films? It really bothers me that there aren't more well-made films out there.
Well, and even if you look back at some of the classics that people love, like The Thing, it's not the best made film ever. It's really just they hit just the right magic there. It's not high quality production. It's just manageable.
Yeah,
it's not
sort of serviceable,
you know,
isn't it? That's the best you can hope for, is a serviceably good film. It's like,
and,
oh, well.
I mean, they put out The Purge, which was a great concept, and then the writing fell apart. I don't know that people know how to write a good horror movie that doesn't center around a single character, because your Jasons and your Freddys, they did fine. I won't say they still do fine because we haven't seen anything, or we haven't seen a lot lately. But I don't know. I think it all kind of falls apart.
It usually comes down to good writing, and there's a lot of I read a lot of amazing short stories and horror novels and stuff, but they don't get a lot of good films. Actually, a really good one that I'd recommend to any listeners is Oculus. That took me by surprise. Okay. Really good film.
Yeah.
Scary mirror. It was good. Did you see that?
I did not. I'm honestly kind of a wuss when it comes to horror movies, and I kind of tend to avoid them. Having said that, there are a couple. Have you seen Dale and Tucker versus Evil?
No, I saw the trailer, and the trailer seemed to give me enough of the gag that I didn't need to particularly watch the film. I was like, oh yeah, fair enough.
No, it's I did enjoy it. It does have a twist that you don't see in the trailer. That was quite enjoyable, although you kind of see it led up to in the movie, so it's not that surprising. And then I really love Cabin in the Woods.
Oh yeah, that is a nice little film. Not scary, but a good film.
No.
And that's the thing. That's the hardest thing to find. There's another layer in my mind of horror films that I haven't ever watched because I think I've passed the point where they would do me any good. But things like the Serbian film and what's it called, 12 Days of Sodom, and there's a couple of like proper sort of video nasty ones, and I was just like, I've seen everything, but I haven't seen those. But will my life be made better by those? Probably not. But French horror films like Martyrs and that's about as grim as I've gone so far, and that's a particularly unpleasant but brilliant film. But don't you watch it? It would break your soul. Don't go near.
Yeah. Did you watch the 2005 adaptation of Call of Cthulhu? No. It's a black and white silent film.
Ooh, fancy. Is it good?
Honestly, it's better than average. It's not the greatest thing ever, but it was also a very small budget, and you can tell in a couple of places. But it's handled really well. It's a beautifully shot film, and they tell a story that's well worth watching and enjoying.
And you can't say fair like that, can you? You can allow a bit of budgetary constraints if something's been told with love and well shot and all the rest of it. That's a lovely thing.
Yeah, it's only like 45 minutes. So it's not overly long, and that something terrible is going to come out of the mist in the end. But they treat it very lovingly, and I think that there's a lot of key there. Is they wanted to produce a good Cthulhu movie, and they did that. So
yeah, and it counts for a lot. The intention is everything when it comes to these things. Like when I see other parodies of hip hop music, often they're just appalling. Because they're made by people who don't like the hip hop in the first place, and so they're sort of taking the mickey out of something that they don't really like. You're going to kind of pay tribute to something, or build on something, and you've got to have some love for it in the first place, I think, to make it effective.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit more about Professor Elemental. Like, how do you keep that going? Like, do you just
drink,
sit down and drink? You sit down and kind of look at things and put on your steampunk glasses and try and find more things to talk about. What exactly do you do there?
Oh, easy. That side of it is the easiest thing for me, because the Professor is just me, a slightly sort of fictional me. He's basically me when I'm either drunk or excited. There is very little difference between him and I. And yeah, I've got more ideas than I could fit into a million lifetimes of doing the Professor. It's just choosing which ones are best, and also it's all to do with collaborating with people as well. It's people coming across. Like I recently did a game with Cheap Ass Games, and to be honest, they did most of the writing and all of the kind of heavy lifting for it. But it's when you find people like when doing the comic, like, yes, this is perfect. We've got a kind of synergy here. You get what the Professor's about, and those kind of collaborations can spiral off into some really interesting directions. But yeah, I find him really, really easy to write with. Sometimes people say, "So have you got some other characters lined up?" And I'm like, "Nah, this is it. This is it. I'm going to ride him till the wheels fall off." Good old Professor.
Right on. You said you did a game with Cheap Ass Games. What game was that?
I did. First of all, we did a little sort of test run. It was a sort of a special deck of the card game Pairs. Which,
Okay.
to my embarrassment, I still struggle to work out how to play properly, even though it's my card game. But now we've done one called Stuff and Nonsense, which they did a really successful Kickstarter for. But it's slightly frustrating because at the moment, loads of Americans who supported the campaign sending me pictures going, "Oh, loving the game. This is out. Oh, brilliant. Thanks a lot. I haven't played the bloody thing. I'm waiting for them to send me some copies." But they're lovely to work with, and they've got such a great reputation as well. Occasionally you get sort of collaborations where you feel really honoured to be working with people. A bit like that with Brian Kessinger, the Otto and Victoria artist who works for Disney. He's like the loveliest man, and just like the remotes, you're like, "Oh my God, I can't believe we're working together. That's really exciting." It's lovely.
Yeah, I will keep an eye out for Stuff and Nonsense at Gen Con this year because G-Pass Games is always there, and we love to talk to people about their fantastic games, and a little bit more elemental in my life is never a bad thing. So.
That's what I keep telling people. Yeah, no, they were well worth chatting to.
Well, I'll tell you, I supported the Kickstarter because I'm always about anti-bullying and charity, but anything to help support you as an artist is sounding fantastic as well. But then I told the other people, my co-hosts and my partners in the business, that I was going to interview you, and I had a line of people that said, "Oh, well, we'll just get on Skype and sit there quietly. We promise not to talk. We just want to be there."
That's nice.
So,
is there loads of people secretly listening to this now? Well, hopefully there are some people.
No,
it is a podcast, but still.
Yeah, there are nobody's listening live right now. We had to switch times to a very early part in the morning, and I didn't mention this one to him. I didn't want to jinx this one with how busy you've been.
Yes, sorry. It's taken us bloody ages to actually have this conversation, hasn't it? We're finally talking, to be honest.
Yeah, hey, I'm willing to wait a little bit. You wait for the good stuff, right? So
that's kind.
Yeah, so you have a small following here in Indiana, and I'll tell you, as soon as you get back to the States, I will be watching and trying to figure out how to get to one of your shows because we're huge fans over here.
Oh, thanks so much. Well, you and indeed anybody listening, like the only way I'll ever get to America is when kind people recommend conventions to me, or even get in touch with conventions and say, "Oh, try and book Professor Elemental," and that's how I get to kind of bounce around and meet all these lovely people. So if there are any good conventions, let me know. I'll try my best to get in there.
And the travel's got to be kind of expensive since you only go by Zeppelin, right?
Well, that is the problem, and it takes me 2 to 3 years to get from continent to continent. So it's a slow old business. But I do, I'll get there eventually.
Let's talk a little bit about your social media. Where can people find you? Where can we kind of engage with you at?
I'm very engageable. Is that a word? It's not a word, is it?
Sure.
It is now. I'm on Twitter most of the time. It's Prof_Elemental, and I spend a lot of time chatting about on Twitter. And the usual, the Facebook group, but all of the stuff, all of the main things and the videos and all that crap, you can see at ProfessorElemental.com. And I always get back to people. So if you say something nice, I'll try my very best to make sure I say hello to you.
Okay. And you said you're on perpetual tour. You're going to be in the UK mostly. We do have you listeners over there. So do you have any? I would say a couple weeks from now. Anything coming up a couple weeks from now?
Yes, almost definitely. Although I've got into this weird sort of cycle where I don't really know where I'm going until the next gig because I can't. It's too much for my mind to contain because there's always somewhere weird coming up. So the best bet is to look on. There's a forthcoming events page at ProfessorElemental.com, and you can find it all on there because I don't remember. I'm definitely going to be somewhere, probably a couple of places, but I couldn't tell you where. Might be France, might be London, not sure.
Excellent. So, is there an album you suggest people start with? Anything specific you point people towards first?
My favourite one is Father of Invention, actually, because it was like the first sort of full album that we did that was kind of, I felt like I kind of brought the Professor to fruition. I was like, that's how I want him to look. So yeah, any of them, hopefully people can dive into. I'm establishing a very kind of loose continuity between them, but my God, it is loose. So it's not like anybody needs to like listen to them in sequential order or anything like that.
Yeah. Excellent. Okay. Well, Paul, it's been great having you on. Thank you very, very much. You can head over. I highly suggest heading over to ProfessorElemental.com. There's tons of stuff there. Great art, just all over the page. And then the albums are available there. You can find them on iTunes as well. That's where I typically pick ours up. And then we listen to you on Spotify from time to time as well. So definitely check out Paul or Professor Elemental in any of those spots. When are we going to see a Jeffrey solo act? Is that coming?
God, can you imagine? That's probably when you see the sort of Jeffrey solo album. That's when you know that I've finally run out of ideas. Like, oh, that's the last one then. Particularly when I do the albums, I always make a point of it to not ever have Jeffrey say anything. In the comics, he's really verbal, but for some reason on the albums, I prefer not even to have monkey noises. So yeah, keep an eye out for the Jeffrey solo album. Will be the last thing you ever hear from me.
Well, and is that what he's recording while he's lost in time?
It's a long story what he's doing when he's lost in time. I won't bore you with it now. I'll let the album do that for me.
Excellent. Well, we'll look forward to that. Do you know when that album will be ready in a general time frame?
Yeah, that's going to be. I'm going to do another little Indiegogo campaign towards the end of August because I'd love to. It's predominantly, to be honest, so I can pay all of the collaborators who've been kind enough to give up their time. So that's my kind of plan, and then to put it out around about sort of October time. So keep an eye out, chaps. And the first single will be the song I did with Steam Powered Giraffe, and a lovely video with them as well that we filmed in America. So yes, fun things on the way.
Excellent, excellent. All right, well, I think that will do us tonight for the Nerds Domain podcast. You can find us on Facebook and Twitter. You can go over to patreon.com and support us there. You can go to the website, sign up for the newsletter, and I'm missing something. Oh, 5-star ratings on iTunes are always wonderful. And,
yeah.
and you can find our shirts over at /Lubes, and we will talk to you guys real soon.